progress. So let's begin.
Welcome, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Welcome to the 5th class in the Datun study course. We'll begin, as usual, with sitting meditation. I saw a heart just floating up on the screen, and it reminded me that I was going to ask people to refrain from using those reaction buttons during the talk, to not use the reaction buttons. It's somewhat distracting and it doesn't feel completely appropriate for a Dharma talk to have people spending time sending lots of little emojis up. So if you could not do that, I would appreciate it. If you can't resist, go ahead. So we'll begin with a little sitting meditation. As a very simple reminder, begin with posture. If you're seated on a cushion, your legs could be crossed. If you're seated in a chair, have your feet flat on the ground. You should feel your bottom on whatever you're sitting on, some sense of being seated, solid. Your back should be loosely straight. If you can avoid leaning against anything, that would be great. And then have a good sense of your head and your shoulders, sense of being uplifted. Within this wakeful posture, we breathe naturally. As the breath goes out, go out with the breath. You don't have to watch the breath. Just be the breath. Go out with it. It dissolves into space. The next breath comes, you go out with it. And then when you notice that you're distracted, just acknowledge that by label it thinking and go out with the next breath. So that's the technique. We'll sit for 5 minutes. Welcome again. Today we will continue our discussion of the Four Truths for Noble Ones, or the Four Ennobling Truths, or the way we usually hear it described as the Four Noble Truths. To briefly review these four truths, we have the truth of dukkha, or suffering, the truth of its cause, the truth of the ending of suffering, and the truth of its cause. So we have these two pairs of the results, suffering and freedom from suffering, and their causes. Generally, these are described as the truth of suffering, the truth of the origin of suffering, the truth of the cessation of suffering, and the truth of the path. So today, we're going to talk about cessation. But I think we should go back and just briefly review what the first two truths are about. So dukkha, suffering, not to be confused with pain, but dukkha has three types: the suffering of suffering, which includes birth, old age, sickness, death; the suffering of change, not getting what you want, getting what you don't want, losing what you want to hold on to; and then all-pervasive suffering, the suffering of conditioned existence. That all-pervasive suffering is the most subtle and the most prevalent. The origin of suffering, or its cause, is kleshas and karmic chain reactions. We'll talk a little bit more about those when we talk about cessation. The truth of cessation of dukkha in the early Buddhist teachings is sometimes likened to the way a candle flame is extinguished when you blow it out. That the arhats, who are liberated from suffering, experience the end of experience. It's sort of like the materialist view of death, that the lights go out and that's it. Unlike the materialist view, it's not tied to the death of the body, because we can continue to experience samsara lifetime after lifetime. The Mahayana view, which is the view that Trungpa Rinpoche presents, is a little different. Remember, we talked about dukkha as like the second arrow. The first arrow being some painful situation, and then the second arrow being our reaction to that pain, causing further pain, causing dukkha, causing suffering. So the Mahayana view of cessation is not about getting rid of anything. It's about changing the way we experience whatever it is. So it's about the exhaustion of delusion rather than the exhaustion of experience. In the Mahayana view, cessation means that experience continues, but our relationship to it is radically altered. The suffering ceases. It ceases when the kleshas and the karmic chain reactions are seen clearly for what they are in a non-deluded way. Normally, we experience emotions and the chain reactions that arise from them in a deluded way. We grasp at a self, at phenomena. We cling to them. We hold on to them as though these are real things. Trungpa Rinpoche, in the reading that you will do for next week, gives a very nice quote about cessation. He says, experientially, cessation means that thoughts become transparent. I'll repeat that. Experientially, cessation means that thoughts become transparent. Normally, our thoughts are pretty solid. They're not so transparent. They seem to be about stuff, about things and me and mine. They seem to be about real, solid world and a real, solid experiencer. Thoughts becoming transparent means that we recognize the thoughts for what they are. An analogy for this is like recognizing a dream while you're dreaming. The appearances of the dream continue. It doesn't mean that they stop. But you know that these are just movements of your mind, mere appearance, with no ability to harm or help you. That is cessation. So in particular, the thoughts of me and mind are realized not to refer to anything. We usually go around narrating our experience, thinking, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I want this. I don't want that. And so on. We don't recognize that the I that we think about is imaginary, that it is unfindable. We can't find anything other than these thoughts which we are clinging to. Thoughts become transparent means that the illusion of ego is penetrated, that we recognize it's just a mistake, and that the karma and kleshas arise from this delusion. This is the arising of wisdom. So, from the Mahayana perspective, cessation doesn't mean the end of thought, the end of experience. It means the arising of wisdom, the wisdom that recognizes things just as they are. Now, it might seem like this is some big breakthrough that we have, that cessation is a one-shot deal, some great thing to look forward to. But cessation is not a one-shot deal. It is based on glimpses repeated many, many times, many insights into the nature of our experience, the nature of egolessness. I think in one of the important Mahayana texts, they talk about 64,000 glimpses, insights into essencelessness that gradually exhaust our delusory habits or tendencies or imprints, revealing the play of wisdom that has always been our true nature. So that's a brief presentation of the third truth for noble ones, the truth of cessation, the cessation of suffering. We can now go to our breakout rooms and have a discussion, and then we'll come back and discuss all together.
Thank you. And oh, sorry. Please.
I'd like to offer a prompt for these discussions in the breakout room. No doubt you have had some probably quite brief experiences of cessation. What were those like? So that's the prompt. Aina, over to you.
Thank you, Andy. I just wanted to say that